Hi, so we're introducing Megan, our composer for our film called Malevolent, and Katrina, who's our director for the film. This is a student film from Solent University, and it's a very, very ambitious project. As an FMP, our final year film, it's certainly quite a stretch that we went to make this film, most notably by having the largest budget of any FMP group.
Really?
This
I didn't
year.
know.
This year, definitely. By
Although,
like £1,000, I think.
I think so, but there's been FMPs in the past that cost about 9k.
I'm so glad we didn't go that far.
No, yeah, same.
Anyway, I want to start off by just introducing yourselves and your role in the film. Kat, do you want to go first?
Yeah, so hi, I'm Katrina. I am the director and one of the co-writers of Malevolent. The other co-writer is sitting on the other side of the room.
Thank you. You're
Yep.
flattering. Megan, do you want to go?
Hi, I'm Megan. I wrote the original soundtrack for Malevolent. I was kind of on a wider crew, so I wasn't actually with the rest of the Solent crew, but they brought me in, so that's really good.
Yeah, you're one of the team now. You're on the team. And I'm the producer for the film. Me and Katrina sort of started it back in
A year ago.
June last year. So
No, it was May.
It was May last
I
year.
went back to the first treatment a couple of weeks ago and it said May 2024.
Oh my gosh, we've been working on this film for a year.
I know.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's been totally worth it. But yeah, so we've both been on the project from the start. And it was honestly an honour to be on this film. But going off from that, Katrina, what was the original idea or inspiration for this short film?
Well, when I first began pitching it, my main reference that I would tell people was that I was influenced by Pan's Labyrinth, which is a 2006 film by a Mexican filmmaker, Guillermo del Toro. And I saw that film a couple of years ago and I fell in love with like the style and the vibe of it and the tone as well, because it kind of bounces between reality and like that fantasy element that I was chasing. And I think if people were to read our first treatment, it was a very different film.
Definitely.
Yeah, because originally we had the creature be like a fire monster.
Yeah.
I don't know how we would have done that.
No,
I don't know
the
how we would have done that.
VFX, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
For fire especially.
Yeah.
Yeah, the risk assessment for that wouldn't have been great.
The risk assessment
just
was
saying we're
already
gonna
bad.
Set a
No.
person on fire. Thank goodness we didn't go there.
Yeah, but I was really happy with how the storyline of the creature progressed, because I wanted it to be more in tune with the whole idea of like connecting Mother Nature with femininity. So I think that came out perfectly.
Yeah, it does. The sort of story of the film does align with a lot of sort of old myths and legends. Most notably, I think we were talking about Medusa as well as being an inspiration for the story, and that
and then something to do with runes as well.
Yeah, and especially like for Medusa, she's this monster in Greek mythology, but in reality she has a really tragic backstory, which makes her a lot more sympathetic.
Yeah.
And so especially going down that route for the creature was very important for us to develop. So going off of that, what was your vision for the film and how did you start shaping it?
Well, my vision was, I actually started with the end. Before I even knew what the story was going to be, I knew how it was going to end. I knew it was going to be, originally in an attic or like an isolated bedroom in a kind of old-timey house. And I knew it was going to be a man like bursting through the door and then being killed magically
that's
by
in the final film.
a feminine creature. Yeah,
You just spoiled it.
Sorry
guys, spoiled the ending.
I always knew that was going to be the ending, and that was the only constant that remained consistent throughout the whole development of the story. Although I did look back to my notes, like I said, a couple of weeks ago to the original treatment, and I think I wrote originally I had her eating his intestines.
Really? I never heard about this. Oh my gosh.
I don't know if I ever shared that document with you. But yeah, obviously we did stray away from that idea.
Yeah.
Because that would have been quite intense.
We know what to make if we need to make a sequel.
Exactly.
Yeah. Sorry, guys, we're making an 18. If you're under that age,
Yeah.
I'm not saying it.
But yeah, that was the vision came from like that original thought.
Yeah, and then for us, Megan, we met at the Southampton Film Week
we did.
Awards.
Was that probably about October or November?
I was thinking that. Yeah. Gosh, and we just ended up sitting next to each other.
Yeah, what a weird coincidence that was.
Completely coincidental.
Yeah.
And we started talking about, we're making this film, and you were so interested, which was always a pleasure to
yeah, it was lovely to meet you there, and
yeah.
it's amazing how one thing can lead to another like that.
Definitely.
And also how strange it was that my specialism within soundtracks is kind of a Celtic influence. And when I was reading through a script, there's so many things like the backstories of these characters come from different Celtic nations, sort of like and nature as well, and how that kind of comes into the music and the whole
definitely
film.
And I think it fits really well with the story as well, especially like it's set in the 1930s, and of course it's like old, maybe not mythology times, but certainly it's got
traditional
sort of aesthetic to it, which was really cool. And so is that sort of when you read the script, how did you sort of begin thinking about the score?
So the start of any process, you can look at the script to a certain extent, but for me personally, I work really well visually. So I remember you also sent me some mood boards, which really helped me get an idea for the visual side of a film. So the combination of those two things made it really easy to kind of place myself in that world and understand what kind of music was needed for it. And then again, it was a lot of kind of back and forth between yourself and Katrina about kind of what sound you wanted. And yeah, so that was kind of the start of the process.
Definitely. Yeah, it's a good way to... So you're quite a visual
thinker? Always have been. I mean, that's just the way I tend to compose. I would say I'm mainly an improviser, so the way I write music is quite instinctive. So if I see like a photo or video, then I tend to write in the moment rather than taking too long and overthinking of it a little bit. So yeah, very much visual for writing music.
Yeah, definitely. And sort of, going off from what we were doing at the same time, developing the story, not only creatively, but logistically as well. What sort of, for you specifically, Katrina, especially coming from like the creative side and I guess a bit of the logistical, what did you think was like the most difficult thing to sort of manage, especially in those early days?
Well, the most difficult thing was definitely the financing. But that was kind of more your problem to solve.
Yeah, it was my problem. My fault.
Creatively, it's interesting how in the summertime I had what I thought was like a pretty strong vision. But then when it came to September and like October, and this was the beginning of like FMP season, I kind of got like stumped like in a writer's block, because I feel like once we started discussing the storyline with like different supervisors, it all got like stripped down to why are you doing this? What's the meaning of this?
Yeah, like what is the film actually
like
about?
What is it actually about?
Always such a difficult question.
Yeah, and then we were asked to make like different character sheets for like all the different characters, even the ones that aren't on screen as much, and that got me thinking about each character in a different way, which then impacted the development of the story and basically changed the story. So actually I think for me the most enjoyable but also the most complex thing was writing.
Definitely, it's what did we get to the 7th version of the script?
Yeah, it
It's
changed, I
insane.
think, 3 times over the course
Yeah.
of writing it.
It's because
yeah.
once you submit a draft and then you get feedback and then you're like, okay, I need to change all this and this and this,
Yeah.
but then you're like, oh wait, do I change this or do I keep this? So
Yeah.
you're like always in your own head.
Yeah,
Did you ever have any of those moments where you were like lying in bed at 3 a.m. and something suddenly pops into your head and you're like, oh my gosh, it all like makes sense?
I don't know if I
or
ever
this
told
is
you, but
like-
that's the only way I write. Because I'm like one of those people that I feel really productive during the nighttime. So during the nighttime, I would always like be brainstorming, and I'd be like making 1,000 Google documents. Like,
the Google Docs.
yeah,
that we
and then
make,
during the daytime is when I would go into like campus
Mm.
and then try to make sense of what I was doing at 3 a.m.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah.
ever dream it and then have to wake up and write it down straight away?
I've had experiences where I've dreamt like shots for the film. It wasn't necessarily like a coherent dream where I understood like how this was going to fit into the story, but it was a dream where I was like, oh, I like how that looks, I want that shot in the film.
Yeah, definitely. And alongside the sort of creative aspect, we decided to go for the 1930s era for our film, which for a student film on a student budget is certainly a huge task. And what was our production budget? Production design budget. It was £800.
It was 800 or 850,
Yeah, it was
just
it was
under a
lot.
grand.
Yeah, it was insane, but so that was definitely the most challenging part in terms of like logistics, especially getting the house that suited the era and the clothes, and even getting the actors that fit into a 1930s aesthetic is always something you have to think about. Our poor production designer,
No, but
she
I
did
think
amazing though.
given what she had to work with, she did amazing.
Definitely, I totally agree. So I think in
Yeah,
terms
shout
of
out to Eleanor.
Yeah, shout out to Eleanor.
Yes, you did amazing. We're so proud of you. So I think in terms of like logistical difficulties, getting the era right and getting the money to get that sort of aesthetic right was really, really difficult, especially
And finding the location.
It took us months, absolutely months. And like even when we it felt like an impossible task, because when we first started looking at the house, there were 1,500 a day, which I know luckily it was a short film, but that would rake up if we were filming across 3-4 days. So that was definitely really challenging, but we got really, really lucky with that location. Going off of sort of the difficulties, how do you think we sort of were able to decide on not just the location but the casting as well?
Well, the difficult thing about these characters is that I couldn't like visualize any specific type of actor or like performance, because I feel like I didn't make my job easier for myself and I made like these like complex characters, so I was like, I knew that each different actor would deliver such a different performance and such a different interpretation, which is why I was like open to seeing anything. And I think you remember it was like really difficult for us to narrow it down as well.
It was.
Because we kept going back and forth for like nearly a month.
Yeah, casting took a very long time. And just deciding the right one. I think we ended up sort of talking to the entire crew as well, sort of entire primary crew, about who they liked and why. Yeah. And then that really helped with getting to the final decision of who we were going to hire as well.
And then because it's in the 1930s, you need people to like imagine them in 1930s attire, and then is it gonna work, or are they gonna look way out of place?
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, it was such a shame having to turn down people who had like sort of modern makeup or like permanent makeup, like
like dyed hair.
Dyed hair.
Yeah.
Big one. So yeah, that was also really difficult. But luckily we had 3 amazing actors.
Yeah.
So shout out to Carlos, Hannah, and Amy.
Yeah, did a great
They
job.
were brilliant.
Yeah.
Really, really, really good. And we got so lucky with that, especially for a student film. Like they were already quite established, so they had experience in films.
Yeah.
And they were just brilliant. They fit the roles perfectly. Yeah, and then in terms of location, we got so lucky with that location. Not only was it within our budget by quite a bit, it also provided accommodation. The staff were lovely, and it was just perfect. I don't think we could have really asked for anything better.
Yeah.
Within our budget. And although it was in Leeds, which was so that was also a reason for our huge budget. Not only was it an expensive house, but it was also expensive travel.
Yeah.
We had 20 crew members altogether, including the cast. So getting 20 people from Southampton up to Leeds is quite a feat, definitely. So we got really lucky with that as well. But moving on to production side, I know, Megan, you weren't really involved with that.
No, it'd be interesting to hear about it.
Yeah, definitely. But I think we already know the answer to this question. But what was the most challenging day on set, and how did we get through it?
Well, I think actually if you ask all the crew members, everyone would have a different answer.
Yes, definitely.
For me, I would say the first night.
The first night?
The first night, but I think that's because the first night is always going to be the hardest.
It was really hard. That was when we were doing the gimbal shot as well.
Yeah, and again, we didn't make it easy for ourselves because we decided to do the most complex shot on the first night.
Yeah.
And we were scheduled to start shooting at about, I think it was 7:45.
Yeah, quarter to
about 8 p.m.
Yeah.
We didn't start shooting until about 10:30.
Yeah.
Because it took so long to... We set everything up. It took so long to get the... it was the moonlight. And because it's a moving... it's a tracking shot. It's on a gimbal, and a camera operator, she basically had this huge gimbal like strapped to her back, which is really heavy, and she's walking backwards, and then she's walking backwards up the stairs, and the actor is like following her forward, and then they have to turn the corner, and it keeps going like basically around the whole house.
Yeah.
It took her... That was definitely the shot we did the most takes for as well.
I'm
glad we did as well, because it's such a long take as well.
Yeah, it's such a long take.
And like there's no cuts in it as well, so that was really, really difficult.
I think at one point Carlos, the actor who's in the actual shot, was like, I think your camera operator might need a break because everyone was so worried about the moonlight. Everyone kind of forgot about her.
Yeah, and tragic. Yeah. She did so great on that day, though. It was amazing. And during that shot as well, it really felt like all hands on deck just to get the shot
And that was
right.
the same day that we did all the SFX stuff.
Yeah.
So, which was even worse because we were running behind, and then Amy was sitting in her makeup for like hours, and because it's so like SFX heavy, she can't like move around, she can't drink, she can't eat. They had to like create like a gap for her to be able to drink through a straw. It was really bad.
That was also the day where we had to pick up the stand from the external hiring company. It was insane, but long story short, we ended up having to go to another company because the stand wouldn't fit in our van.
It would without safety procedures, but the company said we can't let you take it without the safety procedures.
Yeah, definitely. But luckily we got it for a much cheaper price, and it was there in time, which was amazing. So shout out to Provision for that. But yeah, that was also very intense, and it did not help that everyone was already stressed about the shot and the scheduling.
We basically split up. Half the crew stayed at the location, half the crew went to Manchester to get the stand. Got to Manchester, were told you can't take the stand with you because it's too dangerous.
Yeah.
So everyone was kind of like stranded in different parts of the UK.
Yes, yes. It was chaos, absolute chaos, but we got through it.
Yeah.
It was fine. And then I think the other days sort of ran mostly smoothly.
Yeah.
Especially on that third day.
Yeah.
I think everyone was just, let's get through it, and sort of got a push to finish it. It was like the final day, we're going home tomorrow, let's just do it. And the vibes were immaculate. But yeah, so yeah, I think I think we also touched a bit on the sort of anything unexpected that happened that actually turned out better for the final product.
Yeah.
I think the stand is definitely a big one. We got delivery both ways, and it was cheaper overall.
We got the word.
The word?
Do you remember the Travis Perkins situation?
Yeah.
It happened on the same day as the stand.
Oh,
we had to get like these big,
the wood, of
big
course.
pieces of wood, and there was like 3 of them, and they were huge. They'd probably go up to this whole to these both walls, and again, it wouldn't fit into our van, so they had to saw them at the shop.
Yeah.
Saw them in half, and they still wouldn't fit into our van.
Yeah.
So I think they got some people to carry it by hand, and they saw they put the other pieces into the van.
It was like a 10-minute walk, 20 minutes.
Yeah. And then
just carrying this
after
huge
that,
slab of
and
wood.
after that, Lottie and half the crew went straight to Manchester.
Yeah, so much was going on, man. It was
so much was happening.
And then on the final day, we were like, well, our wood doesn't fit in our van, and we can't take it back to the company. What do we do with it? And luckily, it was just before, it was like the morning that we were supposed to leave the location, because we had to leave before 11 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember who it was, went over to this guy
down the street,
who down the street, who was doing some construction in his garden, and they just went, would you like some wood? And he was like, yeah, sure. And so
that's how we got rid of
rid of the wood just by giving it to one of the neighbours on the street.
Yeah,
which is amazing. Can you imagine if we were in an isolated location trying to get rid of that wood?
I know.
I feel like we would just dump it in the forest.
We just burn it,
and
probably.
And burn it. Oh god.
No, but it was
the
huge.
forest.
It would have caused a fire.
It would.
It would have caused like a
Yeah.
wildfire.
It was really thick as well.
That's why
so
we didn't know what to
ages.
do, because like we can't burn it, because then we'll burn down like the whole of the UK.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah, that was definitely. So we got, on that first day, we got so lucky with everything. It was just amazing. Like, it was a disaster, but it ran so smoothly. It was a smooth disaster.
It was like blessings in disguise.
It was, yeah. So sort of moving away from like sort of the logistical things that we had going on the set, how did you sort of approach working with the actors and the crew, especially it being so stressful?
Well, I actually talked to you about the schedule, and I said I need like at least 2 hours every day to run rehearsals with the actors and run blocking with the actors. Even if it's just us like sitting down and talking about like what happens in this scene and like why it happens. And sometimes it was like actually really fun to do it because it went really smoothly, and I felt like everyone was kind of like on the same page. And then some rehearsals we didn't go as smoothly, but that was due to like camera blocking, because like a lot of the film, everything is happening in one room. And because there's so much movement, you have to block the movement in a way where, you know, it's going to make sense with the continuity and like everything, all of the, again, boring logistical stuff. So that's what made some of the rehearsals run over time. But yeah, my approach to like working with the actors for this kind of project was kind of just, and this is something that I learnt in one of my directing workshops with the lecturer. She said, never ever tell the actor what to do. They know what to do. They can read the script.
Yeah.
You tell them what's in between the lines, because that's what they're looking for. That's what they need to know. So that kind of advice always stuck with me.
That's really great.
I think that's true for any crew members, though.
Yeah.
It's not just the actors. It's, you know, most of us know what we're doing within our individual discipline, but that might not be what's best for film, and only the director knows that. So.
Yeah.
You are the god of the film, essentially.
Oh, thank you.
And I make it work. Well, try to. So yeah, I think managing a set of 20 people was definitely a feat, especially to get them all up to Leeds voluntarily, and there was a limited number of beds, so there were people sharing beds, and I think there was a room of 6 beds, which a bunch of the guys slept in.
Yeah, that was the boys' room.
I am so surprised that they stayed on our project for so long. I think we got most of our crew members in not July. Can you imagine? In sort of October time. And luckily, even though they found out that we were going to Leeds, we would all be staying in the same house, and people would be sharing rooms. They were all so passionate about making this film work, and we were shocked that all of them stayed on. It was amazing. I don't think we really lost a single crew member.
Well, it's a great film with a great script, so you can normally see, you know, there's a lot of value in that even before it is a film.
Well, I actually spoke about this with Holly, I think, at one point, and the people who were, I think, the most nervous about going all the way to Leeds was like the 7 of us, the primary crew, because obviously we knew what it would be like. But when I spoke to everyone else about like going up to Leeds, like everyone was really excited, and I think it was kind of just the idea of like traveling so far up for an FMP that made them stay on.
Yeah.
So
I think a lot of them just felt like it was a holiday.
Yeah.
They had a really good time, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, and luckily we made sure that everyone was fed and everyone was happy, and luckily everyone was happy throughout the whole thing. And we didn't really have any sort of major conflict on set, which like everyone in a room on a set for like 3 days straight can be really difficult. But we got it done, and it was amazing, and we were a stronger crew by the end of it, and everyone was really happy, which is really great and always what you want to look for. So moving back to the composer, luckily this is your time to shine, because we're moving on to post-production. So can you sort of walk us through your creative process for the soundtrack, and if there are any specific scenes that you really enjoyed scoring?
Yeah, of course. So my process actually started in pre-production with the writing. I sent you a few demos to begin with, because I remember you sent me a few temp tracks and kind of example films and the soundtracks you wanted. So I'd already done a bit of composing way before production, so I already had an idea of what sound you wanted for the film. But yeah, so what I originally started with was, of course, watching the film, and not just once, not just twice, but like 5 times, and taking as many notes as I needed. Obviously, I had the script to hand as well, so I could see all the action going on. And then I had to really split it up in terms of how the music was going to develop throughout the film, because that is one of the challenges with short films, is that you've only got so long, and especially with some of the leitmotifs of the characters, you want them to come back enough times that they're recognisable, but also you've only got so much time to do that, so it's quite tricky. And what we started with was a spotting session, which is typical for any film really, where Katrina and the head of sound, Billy, with myself, we all sat down and looked through it, talked about exactly where the music needed to be and the function of it. And then I went away, basically created a whole draft. I think it was six different cues at that point, which are kind of individual bits of music. And it's quite an iterative process. It's not like I've just done this, there you go. I think so. It took me about a week to come up with those initial ideas, and then I got together with Katrina again, and we looked through it all and worked out what needed to be extended, what needed to go, what wasn't working. And I think what was quite difficult was also I was trying to organise with a violinist, Kai, who has done an amazing job, how and when we could fit in studio sessions to record it. I only had about, I would say the whole process took about 2 weeks on and off. Yeah. But that was mainly because it was my Easter holiday and I had nothing else to think about. So I was just like, yes, I'm going to do this film and nothing else, which worked really well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was lucky I didn't have to make too many revisions because you were happy with it from really the start. And that's the benefit of doing demos, because I wasn't just coming into the film in post-production and seeing it for the first time and thinking, what do I do with this? I already had an idea, and that really helped. So yeah, and then I got into the studio with Kai, got it recorded, and then it was just a question of making sure it was in the right format for film, make sure Billy had everything he needed. And yeah, that was kind of the whole process of the film.
Yeah, it's quite amazing what you were able to pull off, actually, because you were doing your own sort of coursework at the same time. And I think just before you decided to come into the project, you'd said you'd questioned, is this possible with your schedule? So how did you work around sort of making sure that you were prioritising both your course and the film?
I was really lucky that you chose to film it just before my Easter holiday. So otherwise I think it would have been very difficult to coordinate all of this. The thing that definitely helped throughout the whole process is that we were all based in Southampton and I could come and see you in person and get involved that way. But in terms of juggling my own degree work and the film, it helps that I am doing a music degree, so there's a bit of overlap there. But it's really just being brutally honest and carving out the time you definitely need just to focus on this thing. And the way I tend to do that is by setting myself my own deadlines. So say I wanted it all written by this point, then it all needed to be mixed and mastered by this point. And so you were telling me what you wanted and when you needed it, and then I was kind of working back from that. And of course things change all the time. And yeah, I think the main thing was I was just really lucky that it wasn't at a time where I had lots of lectures. I could just focus on it.
Perfect timing, because it's a really small window. I think we had from finishing filming and then going to submitting, it was about 5 weeks, and we still have a week to go.
About 5 or 6.
Post-production's always like that though. It's the most stressful part of the whole process, probably.
Definitely.
So
and we unfortunately didn't have the opportunity to do any reshoots, because we are not going to be adding another 1,000 to our budget in order to do reshoots. So it was really important to get it right on the day, but luckily all our footage has come out pretty amazing. which is always a win. But sort of now that the film is so nearly done, this is a question for sort of both of you. How do you think the sort of editing and music has like shaped the way the film, the story comes together in the film and that?
Massively.
Yeah.
Massively.
Is it a completely different film?
Well, the music has the power to turn it into anything, really.
It's
I mean,
so
when
effective.
I was first watching it, it sounds really bad, but I was kind of laughing at Carlos because it's quite funny just watching
it is.
him suffer.
Yeah.
So yeah, if the music had been any different, it could have been a comedy. I know it shouldn't have been, but you know, it has that kind of power. And also, it changes how you interpret the film as well.
Mm-hmm.
Whether we're supposed to think that, you know, the narrative is a good thing, or like the way the film ends, whether we should be happy with that outcome, or you know, it's all metaphorical, really, and it really changes how you experience the film.
It's amazing how much music sort of dictates emotion.
Yeah.
It's really powerful.
I mean, I remember when our lecturer told us that sound and music is 50% of anything that you see on screen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what everyone always kind of forgets, that, because it's a really underrated department, I feel.
It is.
But it is literally 50%
Yeah.
of everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, going off from what Megan was saying, like, music can literally, it's kind of like the invisible director of film, I think, because you know, if she had put in like a laughing track or like something really insane like that, like it can, you know, change everyone's entire interpretation and the entire feel of the film itself.
Yeah, and I think I forgot what I was gonna say now. Anyway, moving on. So now that the film is so nearly done, and we've done the filming, the pre-production is done, the music is done, and editing is so nearly there. What's one thing you're most proud of about the film? So Katrina, what is like the most proud thing? So Katrina, what is the thing you're most proud of about the film? And composer Megan, you are composer. What is your favorite sort of piece of the film?
So are you asking me or Katrina first?
We'll start with Katrina, sorry.
I mean, I feel like that's such a broad question because there's so many things to be proud of. I mean, first of all, like, I think I'm kind of proud of myself for managing to get you guys on board in the first place. Because it is a really, like far out idea, especially for a student film. So I still, like, just think to myself, like, the fact that you guys said yes initially was a surprise.
Yeah.
And then, you know, like we mentioned, getting so many people and the actors to Leeds, all the things that happened during the actual shoot, and even in pre-production, like, pre-production felt like chaos, and I think we were saying, like, we just need to get to set and then we can get through this, and then we got to set and then it somehow got worse.
And it definitely felt in pre-production. I think there was a moment where we were all, I think it was sort of halfway through pre-production, we were all thinking, is this even feasible? Can we actually pull this off effectively?
Yeah, no, definitely.
But luckily, I think we have.
I think it took me until about, like, the end of November to go, okay, I think we can do it. Because up until then, I was like, I don't know, guys.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can do this. But that's why
knowledge.
there's so many things to be proud of. The fact that this film exists itself
is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And for Megan, is there like a piece that you're super proud of?
I would say in terms of the whole soundtrack, I was really ambitious with how much time I gave myself to do everything. Mainly for your sake, because I know you only had so long before the submission day. It was like, well, it just makes sense to get it out of the way so that you don't have to worry about it. But I'm most proud of that I managed to get it all done really quickly, and I'm really proud of it. I think I've done a good job. Of any of the pieces, the end credits, it's always your time to shine as a composer anyway, because there's nothing else going on, and it's like, music is everything. So I'm really pleased with that, and that was kind of really the accumulation of all the other music in one. So yeah, that was a nice moment getting that finished.
Yeah, I think especially for end credits scores, they're like that's the final thing that you sort of remember about the film is the score over the credits. I mean, if you think about the sort of really big films, like thinking about the Marvel films as the best example I got right now, the score is what you're feeling when you leave the cinema. Yeah. And so it's always
and
really
the thing you
important.
forget as well is it's often the music that actually makes you watch the credits.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just
You're
a load of names.
Seeing words scroll by. Yeah.
So yeah, that's how you keep people watching till the end.
Yeah, definitely. And for both of you, is there something that you wish you had known before starting the project? But it would cost us so much money.
I don't know. Because a lot of the things I knew just from like my time at Solent, like being a film student. And even with preparation on how to like produce a film, like we get taught that. So that's why I knew going into this was not going to be easy at all. I think I kind of wish we kind of did more activities together as a group beforehand. Because we kind of got together, some of us had never worked with each other before, so I think it would have been a stronger kind of like connection beforehand, and then that probably would have made pre-production easier. But yeah, apart from that, I can't really think of anything.
And you, Megan?
It's difficult to say. There are not really things that I could have changed. Unfortunately, I had like a family situation which meant I had to come between Southampton and my home back in Kent, which made it really difficult to kind of make sure I had all my equipment with me. So I just kind of dragged all my equipment with me back on the train, which worked.
Thank goodness.
But yeah, maybe planning that better, possibly, but I didn't know that would happen.
Yeah, no, there's always unexpected things. I mean, if we see on the first day, there's always going to be hurdles. Like, you, no matter how much you prepare for your film, like, we did loads of pre-production, and still there's things that we could not have predicted, and it's all about having that initiative to sort of get through it, essentially. And so coming off of that, is there any advice that you have for sort of future filmmakers who are looking to make their first film?
I think if you're a director, or if you have the role of directing, you kind of, even if you don't sign up for it, everyone expects you to set the tone. So if you're not doing something, or if you're not showing up to something, your crew's not going to do it. Your crew's kind of going to just go along with how you're doing things and how, you're setting things to be. So yes, it can make you kind of a perfectionist, and it can make you go crazy. Yes. But just remember, like, yes, this is a collaborative project, and everyone is just as important as each other, because like without each department, the whole thing could fall apart any minute. But especially on set as the director, like, people are looking towards you to whether it's answer a question, or like solve an issue, or like even if it's like a really simple question, like, okay, what are they wearing in this shot? Like, is the jacket unbuttoned? Is it buttoned? Or is it like a handkerchief in the top pocket? Is there no handkerchief? Even the small stuff like that, like, everyone's always looking towards you, so you just need to be prepared for that. You just need to be prepared to lead.
You're basically the engine of a ship. And everyone's following your lead. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It is still very much a team project, and everyone's voice matters. and everyone has a chance to influence the film, no matter what your position is. And I think that's really important. And it's what makes a great film. Many voices make a great film.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So, coming to you, composer, Megan.
I don't have a name. I'm just composer.
Do you have any advice for any aspiring film composers?
I think this project for me was a classic case of I was in the right place at the right time when I met you.
Yes.
So it really is about making opportunities for yourself. If you are present at that film festival or you put yourself out there, then you're more discoverable and you get these chances. That would be the first thing. And the second thing is that I'm so glad I made the effort to try and be part of a team, because as composer, you only come in very end of the process when everyone already knows each other and you feel like a bit of an outsider. You just get the work done. But I really enjoyed being part of the process from not quite the beginning, but I saw what you were doing from funding all the way through production.
You were there from the beginning, essentially.
Yeah, so I got to know everyone and I really enjoyed being part of a team.
And I'm really glad that you got managed to get in contact with Lily before we went to shoot.
Yes.
Because I think that was really important as well.
Yeah, it was such a good collaboration to get going. And looking at your soundtrack really helped sort of shape how the sound is going to work in the film, which is the stage we're at the moment. And so it's always amazing to have that collaboration, because it just makes a better film. So finally, what is like next for you? Like I know you're second year, so you're going into third year, but like, do you think you'll look to do some more film projects like?
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. So as many. Well, obviously it's tricky to handle this alongside my degree, but I will always make time for it because I love it. But the next big thing for me is next year I'm doing a year abroad in Ireland.
Really?
Mainly to focus on my specialism, really, which is the Celtic and Irish traditional music. So I'll take a step back a little bit from doing films, mainly because I won't have all my equipment with me and I'll be in an entirely new culture, meeting new people. So it could be a lot to handle if I was doing films as well. But if an opportunity comes my way, then I'll definitely do it.
Amazing. Yeah, we're so glad you took the opportunity to be on our film. It's really great.
Oh, thank you. It's great to be part of it.
The best part is that you have your niche.
Yeah.
You have your thing that makes you stand out. And I think that will get you like onto like a lot of projects, because that's what makes you stand out, I think, especially in this industry, is when you have your niche.
Yeah, have your own sort of style.
Exactly. Your own voice, basically.
People will start asking for, which is exactly what you
that's
want.
another tip to film composers.
Yeah.
Try to work out what you do best.
Definitely. And so, Katrina, what do you think is next for you? Being a
well,
final year.
Finally, I'm actually going into producing my next project that I'm working on, which is a film of a friend that we both know.
Yeah.
It's her directing debut, and I'm really happy because I'm helping write or come up with the story as well, which is my niche. That's my thing, directing kind of comes second, writing comes first. I've always said I wanted to do writing in some sort of capacity. So that's going to be the next follow-up project, and after that it's after that will be graduation, and then we'll have to see what happens after that.
Don't remind me. It's definitely going to be a big change, big step, but I think for me, I see myself doing more producing, because I think especially after this project, I was like, this is what I truly love, and I just really love having, without sounding like a control freak, I love that control over the project. I love just being involved in basically every aspect of the film, because I think throughout my university I really struggled to find something that I felt like I could stick at for a long time. Whereas with producing, I can sort of delve into each of those categories, and I can also have a creative input on the film. So I think producing is my calling.
Yeah.
Specifically for documentary, I think. And I mean, I love fiction. I would love to continue to produce for fiction films. But I think documentary has always had that place in my heart, and I think with the desire to make a difference, I think I'd love to do producing. And I think I'm just good at talking to people, which
Yeah, you are. You're very cool-headed as well. I think that's
Yeah.
what makes you so good at it.
I
is
never
that
used to be. I don't know what happened. I
you're
just came to
you're calm in a
university.
crisis, not
I know, it's insane. The stress just right over my head. So
Yeah.
I don't feel it.
That's good. That's perfect in a producer.
Yeah.
And you're great with spreadsheets, which is another
Love
good thing.
spreadsheets. I made so many spreadsheets. It did get absolutely chaotic, and I had so many folders, but I just love making them.
Exactly.
Love Yeah, producing is definitely my calling. Think of the spreadsheets. So, for our final question about the film is for those who are wanting to watch the film when it gets released, either in festivals or online, describe the film in one sentence. I'll start with you, Katrina.
For me, the film is a kind of contemporary Gothic take on like Mother Nature and her connection to femininity, and then the idea of like a male presence coming into that environment and poisoning that environment, which connects to the whole idea of like the house being alive and the house being its own character and like fighting back against him. But yeah, it's a contemporary Gothic take on kind of like the nature of women and men, basically.
Yeah.
Amazing. And from your perspective, Megan, composer, what describe the film in one sentence?
I would probably describe it as fantasy imitating reality. There's so many things in it that seem like they could never happen, maybe, especially the supernatural part of it. But if you really absorb the message of it, then I think that's what comes through in it. It's about, as Katrina says, it's about male abuse and power and that relationship between men and women and how that is imbalanced and how it doesn't actually benefit anyone, the patriarchy. That's what I take away from the film.
Definitely.
It's interesting that you interpret that, because I was considering, when I was first coming up with the idea, I was taking into consideration like the political climate at the time. Well, of the
And
time
still
now.
is.
Of the time now.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to me how, like, if you were to set this in the 1930s, it wouldn't feel that different, because it's like a similar climate,
yeah.
unfortunately.
What was really interesting is that a lot of the crew are female. Like, we're
really
quite a
helps.
heavy woman group.
Yeah.
That's not. Don't quote me on that. A female-led crew. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, actually, I think most of the girls, we've worked with each other before. We made a film together last year, so we all knew each other, and we kind of knew we had like that. We already had that dynamic.
Yeah, and we already sort of understood each other's sort of ways of approaching things, not just creatively but logistically as well. And that really meant that we had a really strong team.
Yeah, which is why I think our communication between us was always on point.
Yeah, it was on point.
The amount of like midnight calls we've had.
So many. They would just turn into sort of just chit chat.
Yeah.
But we would get stuff done.
Yeah.
But it was it was that, I think, having that connection with people you've worked with before, And I think especially for me, there was a lot of people on set that I'd never worked with before, and so that was always really interesting and exciting to work with new people, and I think just sort of building those connections with those people, not just from a sort of LinkedIn perspective, but just making new friends. And I think filmmaking is never just about like, right, let's make a film and make a bit of money on it. It's people coming together who are so passionate to achieve a singular goal.
Yeah.
And that's always something amazing, especially when it works out.
Yeah.
And I mean, even if it doesn't work out, it's still such an amazing thing to do. And
it's really enjoyable.
It's really and I think with the sort of popularity of cinema and stuff, that is really appreciated, and just filmmaking in general.
Yeah. And it's also, I think, at a time like now, really important.
Yeah, definitely. Creating original stories is what we want our relationship with film to be, and it should always be passion first.
Yeah,
and I think with that project,
100%.
even though I guess instead of like getting a cinema release from this film, we're getting a grade, but even then, I don't think we ever really thought about the grade once. We were just, let's come together and make a great film.
Yeah.
And that was always at the heart of our motivation.
And that always reflects in the final
definitely
grading anyway.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah. So that was sort of my favourite thing about creating the film, is that it's always the process that you remember, regardless of the final film. It's always the people that you meet, the challenges and stuff that really make it worth it.
Yeah. Especially, like, it's interesting being on a film set, because you're with people that, like, are complete strangers. But if you're in an isolated location, all of a sudden you're forced to become, like,
friends.
Yeah. Like peers, and you're in the same house, you're sleeping, and it's like bedrooms similar to each other, so you're kind of like now have this weird sibling dynamic. But you still have to be professional.
Definitely.
So it creates like this, like, I think, unique closeness, and that I don't know if you could get in another profession or another job.
No, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it feels a bit like, you know, we've all got a little part of it.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing to be part of something like that, where it's, you know, the typical thing of what we can create together is better than any individual one of us could do. So
yeah, definitely. Collaboration
is key.
Yeah. So I think some advice I would give to sort of maybe upcoming producers and stuff is make a good team. Like, get people together. I think we had a pre-filming party. We're going to have a wrap party. And just make sure it's not always about the work. I mean, of course, it's always, you're always going to have to say, right, we need to do this. But people just want to have fun. And so you've got to create that environment where people can have fun and get work done at the same time.
Yeah.
But the best sets are the ones where it doesn't feel like work.
Oh yeah, definitely. What's that saying, like, work isn't really work if you enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's what filming should feel like. And it is challenging, and it will always be challenging. You'll never ever be on a set where it runs smoothly, ever. So just
actually, if it does run smoothly, that means something's going wrong.
Something's
not right.
Yes, exactly. So if you go in preparing for the worst, you're gonna get the best outcome.
Yeah,
definitely. So yeah, that's my advice. But yeah, so when's the final due date? Is it the 8th of May?
Next Thursday.
Yeah, so we'll have a final film by then.
And the soundtrack is coming out on Friday the 9th.
Amazing.
At midday.
Yes.
So you'll be able to listen to the soundtrack before you've even seen the film.
That's on Spotify, isn't it?
Yeah, it will be on Spotify and all streaming services globally.
Amazing. Can't wait. So yeah, I think that's a wrap.
Yeah.
You see what I did there? So yeah, thanks so much for listening, and we can't wait for you to watch our film. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.